Hi, my name's Jason Goodrow, and I'm a Senior Technical Architect for Advisix Technologies. And today I'm going to take you through vCloud Director and how you can use it to enable your business partners. Now, vCloud Director is a platform that makes deployment of compute clouds possible by enabling self-service access to compute and storage infrastructure through the abstraction of virtualized resources. So the initial release of VMware was to decouple the server OS from the physical infrastructure, which allowed us to drive a lot more business continuity, to enabled us to use our physical resources more wisely by driving utilization rates, and by helping us to become much more agile as a company. But with vCloud Director, what we're trying to do is to further abstract from vSphere and allow our business users and developers to be able to deploy resources on their own, so it can help speed up our development and business cycles. So some of the benefits, again, increased business agility by empowering the developers or our IT business partners to self-deploy with a click of a button. Infrastructure staff spends less time provisioning machines and can focus on innovation. And we can leverage our existing IT investments in the VMware hardware and software that we've already purchased. The key components of vCloud Director are the provider VDC, which is a logical grouping of the compute and storage resources, and they're typically organized in a gold, silver, or bronze fashion for SLAs. Organizational VDCs, which are partitioned and allocated resources of the provider VDCs that are allocated out to the organizations. And organizations, which are workspaces that are owned by our IT business partners, so that they can spin up and create vApps and self-deploy virtual machines. So provider VDCs are typically organized within SLEs or SLAs. So you can see within this diagram we have a gold, silver, and a bronze SLE. So our gold SLE has different attributes compared to the other two categories. So the gold SLE is going to be a reserved pool, which we're going to go into the allocation models later on. The resources are guaranteed 100%. They have a high resource restart order. Management is actually managed in this model so that the IT team is still managing it, and they can have custom types of VMs. It also allows for different levels of storage. So typically your gold SLE or SLA will probably have tier 1 and tier 2 storage. The silver SLE or SLA has an allocation pool plus burst. So it's about 50% guaranteed, and the other 50% would be in contention with other resources, so it's oversubscribed. All the other resources can use that additional 50%. The restart order would be normal. In management, here could be consumer self-service. So this is where the user could actually self-provision their own VMs. They would probably have a small, medium, or large package for deployment. And the bronze SLE is on-demand or pay-as-you-go. It has a variable resource guarantee. We'll talk about that. The restart order is low. Again, consumer self-service, and they would be relegated to small, medium, and large. And they would probably have tier 4 storage. So let's move in to our vCloud Director environment. So this is our vCloud Director environment. This is our lab environment. As you can see, we have a few different organizations set up right now. We have delivery, pre-sales, and sales are our primary organizations. We also have an organization called public. And it's usually a best practice to either make a public or a master organization. And this organization is really going to hold your master catalog or your public catalog that the other organizations can use. So it'll have your gold templates for your vApps and also your gold media resources as well. The cloud cell, we have an individual cloud cell. This is an individual organizational cloud cell. You can have multiple cloud cells, and typically if you have to split your cloud between two physical sites, then you're going to have multiple cells. Provider VDCs. So this is what we went over earlier. So you'll see here we have a bronze, gold, and silver provider VDC. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how you can organize those in the next couple of slides. Organizational VDCs. So here you can see that we've actually broken out some of our resources into organizational VDCs. So delivery has gold and bronze. Pre-sales has bronze, and our sales organization has bronze and silver. The public organization, because it's just used to house our catalog, our media, and our vApps that are available to the other organizations, is typically set as a bronze level and just pay as you go because it's never really being used from an organizational standpoint. It is just there for your gold vApps and for your corporate media. We also have our edge gateways. These are the gateways that are available if you're deploying edge gateways to a certain organization. Here you can see we have a pre-sales edge gateway. External network. So this is the network that gets us external connection to our LAN and also to the internet. The network pools. So these are the different pools we have set available. We have a bronze pool, a gold network pool, a silver network pool, and a regular VLAN backed pool. I'm going to switch back to our presentation really quick. So again, organized based off the provider service levels, the gold SLE, the silver SLE, and bronze SLE. And if you're not used to the SLE acronym, it actually stands for service level expectation as opposed to an agreement. So a lot of times when you're working with an internal customer, they'll want to set an expectation and not have an agreement. So this is the expectation that they can have by going into one of these service level pools. So again, looking at the pool resources, there are different ways that you can design it. So in our lab environment, we're just using resource pools on a single cluster. But you could actually divide up your clusters and set up your pools based off of clusters. So right here we have a gold cluster. And the gold cluster actually has the latest HP ProLiant DL servers with 8 cores, 512 gigabyte of memory, and tier 1 storage, which is broken out within different storage layers. The silver and bronze is on a separate set of hardware. So these are our last generation servers, which were probably trickled down from the gold cluster. They include HP ProLiant DL380 Gen 6 and Gen 7s, probably the 4 and 6 core processors with only 256 gig of RAM, and probably tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4 storage. In this diagram, this is the resource allocations. So again, we talked about the provider VDC actually being a collection of the resources from our vCenter clusters. So here you can see from a gold provider VDC that we have 400,000 megahertz of CPU, and that's actually how it's carved up within a provider VDC. It's by megahertz of CPU, and 2 million megabytes of memory. Silver has 600,000 megahertz of CPU and 2 million megabytes of memory, and bronze is 400,000 megahertz of CPU and 1.5 million megabytes of memory. So we've carved out some of those resource allocations to our organizational VDCs like we saw in our vCloud Director environment. So these are the different allocations that we've given to our sales organization. So the sales organization has a gold org VDC with some of the resources available, the sales silver org VDC, and the sales bronze org VDC. Within those different org VDCs within sales, the developers or business partners are then able to spin up vApps and place those within the resource allocations that have been given out to that organization. So you can see here, these are a bunch of developers. They have a few different vApps. They have a claims payment, an enrollment, a CRM, and a statements vApp. So statements because it's not a high priority for them, has gone to the bronze org VDC. Their CRM and claims payment has gone to silver. And enrollment, because that's where their customers enroll into their systems, have gone to the gold org VDC. Now, within the gold org VDC, if you have tier 1 storage, your tier 1 storage might not just be performance. That could also include storage replication. So say you were going to have high availability and you needed to use the virtual replication or some hardware appliance replication, that could be included in your storage tiering as well. And then what you can do is really provide a heat map for different organizations, trying to give them a sense of where they should put their different applications based off the type of hosting services they have. So you can see enterprise applications. The most critical applications to an organization could go to the gold and DMZ hosting services. Web apps, which are pretty much everywhere, would go through the entire stack available. And if we go all the way to the end, vendor apps would just be in silver, bronze, and offsite hosting. Next is a vApp. So a vApp is really a multi-tiered application. It's a packaged multi-tier app, which includes multiple VMs. So you can see here we have our enrollment VM, which might include Web VM 1, Web VM 2, an application VM, and a database VM. Now this encapsulates an entire application, and what it does is it allows you to operate the VMs as one unit. You can select the boot order of the VMs, start delays, and shutdowns of those different VMs. It also uses the OVF format, which makes them extremely portable as well. So let's jump back to our vCloud Director environment here. So we're going to actually jump into one of our organizations, and I'm going to look at the delivery organization. We're going to open this up. So here's our delivery organization. And within our delivery organization, you can actually see I have a vApp running. It has the lease expires actually in 1 day. Within the cloud itself, you can see the one VM, which is within a vApp. It's called Sales 2K8 VM01. And here's our catalog. So this is the delivery catalog, and this is a published application just for delivery, the Sales Web Application vApp. Now we can also go to public catalogs. So these are the different vApps that are available from the public catalog. You'll see that the catalog is a public global catalog. And each one of these is marked with one of these symbols, which is a gold master. Now this really doesn't do anything. It's just a checkbox that you select. But you're basically designating these vApps as master templates that people can use. You can see which organization that each one of these is a part of as well. So we've got a Windows 2008 IIS server, a Windows 2008 server, and a SQL server that they can deploy from. If we go over here to the Media tab, you can see the different media available to us to build our own servers from an empty VM. So we've got Red Hat, SQL Server, Windows 2008 server with IIS, 2008 server, and Server 2012. So this is the actual catalog that we can use to build out vApps, or the delivery organization could actually use to build out vApps. And this is the administration tab within the organization. So you can see this organization has bronze and gold. Bronze is set up as pay-as-you-go, and gold is set up as a reserve pool. You can see the number of vApps that are in there. So we've got one vApp in bronze, and you can see the provider VDC, bronze and gold. These are the users within the organization. So you can see within the users, we've got two users here, Delivery 1 and Delivery 2, which we can log into. And there are different roles that you can assign users. So if I click on a new user right now, and I was going to create a user, we have 5 different roles that you can choose from. Organization administrator really gives that person the ability to do anything within that organization. Catalog author gives the users rights to create and publish new catalogs. vApp author gives the user rights to create vApps within the catalog. vApp users can only use the vApps within the catalog that have been deployed, and console access is just the right to be able to get to the virtual machine. So if we were just going to be using role-based administration within vCloud Director itself, this is what you would fill out. You could also set up so that the user had a quota, so the amount of VMs that the user can have. So right now it's set to unlimited, but I could go in here and say, this person who's going to be delivery 3, and we'll just create this one real quick. We'll say this username is delivery 3. Password is going to be super secret password. So secret, I'm not going to tell you what it is. Okay. Full name, delivery 1. Delivery 3. Email address, delivery3 at advisexsc.local. Leave those blank. We're going to give this guy a quota of 4 VMs. Number of VMs he can have running at one time, 2. We're going to create. So now you can see that delivery 3 has been created. And it tells you the number of VMs for a quota, 4. And you can see delivery 2 actually has 10. And the number of running VMs is 2. Some other general settings within the organization. So this is the organization name and the default URL. So this is the URL you'd give the delivery people. The organizational full name and description. The email that you could have emails sent out, the SMTP trap and notification email settings if you set that up. The LDAP settings. Right now we just have it set as do not use LDAP. Different policies that you can set up. So from a vApp setting perspective. So the maximum runtime lease, maximum storage lease. That's how long a vApp is stored before automatically cleaning it up. The storage cleanup policy. Typically you're going to want to leave it to move to expire, but you could set it up to permanent delete. So if this is a pre-dev area where you don't care what happens to the vApp after the duration, after the maximum storage lease has expired, then you could have it permanently delete afterwards. The VM template lease, the maximum storage lease, and storage cleanup. A couple other settings here. Default quotas, so you could set up default quotas for the amount of VMs that could be used within this organization, the number of running VMs within the organization. You could set up different limits. So resource-intensive operations, you can actually limit the amount of resource-intensive operations, like spinning up a whole bunch of vApps at one time or doing large copies so that you're not bogging down the entire organization. Simultaneous connections per VM. You could limit it to just 1 or 2 connections per VM if you wanted to limit it out. And you can set up an account lockout policy as well. Guest personalization to add the vApps and virtual machines directly to a domain. Federation, which is SAML identifier and metadata. So I'm going to jump back to the presentation real quick. So we discussed multi-tiered applications and vApps, and we saw those within the catalog, and we actually saw one that was already deployed, the VM. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the different allocation models, which you saw within vCloud Director. So there are 3 allocation models. There's an allocation pool model, which only guarantees a specified percentage of the allocated resources. And the remainder is not guaranteed, so it's overcommitted, and there is potential for contention with demand from other consumers. So from this picture over here, you can actually see that we've guaranteed 25% of the resources, but the other 75% is considered for bursting, but it can be overcommitted. typically what you're going to try to do is make sure that you size your organization well enough that you will not overcommit the actual resource consumption, but you're making it so that if one user needs more capacity, that he can burst up while another user with their VApp is not being used. The reservation pool model is a very straightforward model where it's just fixed resources. So if you give it 400 megahertz of CPU and 2 gigabyte of memory, that's a fixed amount that that resource has. That is not reserved. Whereas if it was in the allocation pool model, it was only 50% guaranteed, you would cut those numbers in half as the reserved amount, but it could burst up to the other half. And pay-as-you-go model is managed resource consumption at the vApp virtual machine level. I very rarely see this happening other than when it's just for a VM that might be spun up really quickly and taken down quickly. But typically it's only used for the master pool because they're never spun up. Organizational networking. So in our lab, we're just pretty much using external network direct connect, which basically takes the organizational VDC network and directly connects it to the external networking. Now you can use external network direct connect routed, which actually will spin up a vShield edged appliance, which can provide DHCP, NAT, DNS, and firewall to that organizational VDC network. It's sort of a bridge between the external network and the organizational VDC network. And the third different type of organization you can have is just an internal network, which has no connection whatsoever to the external network. Access controlled catalogs. So again, we talked about catalogs. I showed you the catalogs. You can have empty, small, medium, and large VMs, pre-installed Windows and Linux VMs, 32 and 64-bit VMs, multiple VMs in a single VApp, and OS media files such as ISO images. And here you'll see this is the sales organization. You'll see within the sales organization, like the one I showed you previously within vCloud Director, that the sales organization has a 2008 web VM available, a 2003 web VM, and a 2008 SQL Server. There's also a sales vApp template, which combines two different VMs that can be deployed at one time, which would be a web and a SQL VM for the sales vApp template. And those can be all deployed out to different vApps. One important consideration, though, when using vCloud Director is that because you're handing these over to developers and your IT business partners, that you definitely need to have responsible consumption in place, which means cost visibility with either chargeback or a showback. And the way you can think about this is if there is no chargeback or showback in place, it's like going to a Ford dealership and being able to select any car on the lot for a fixed price. So if you had the choice between the Ford Focus and a Shelby Cobra GT, everybody's going to take the Mustang over the Ford Focus. And that's the way it's going to be when you're deploying your vCloud infrastructure. If you're a gold provider VDC and organizational VDC are the exact same cost as silver and bronze, everybody's going to be asking for the gold resources. So cost visibility is extremely important. It also makes projects become a lot more cost aware of infrastructure during their application lifecycle, and it helps really lower capital expenses. One wise thing that I learned from my IT finance person from my previous company is that you want to price for behavior. So here you can see we have different pricing models. And what we're trying to do is target resource goals of 10% gold, 60% silver, and 30% bronze. So we're expecting most people to go into our silver area. So what we've done is we've made sure that with what we're doing from a pricing standpoint and the resources that we're making available, that gold is much more expensive. And you'll see here that we have one called the Gold Virtual Machine Custom, which is a custom machine. It can be, whatever size they want for CPU and memory. We've actually priced that the highest to make sure that people are encouraged not to use a custom build. One other aspect that's really important with vCloud Director is portability. So you can use vCloud Connector to be able to move vApps because they're in an OVF format between data center sites and hybrid private cloud providers. This can either be a VMware-powered hybrid cloud partner, or it could be VMware's new vCenter cloud hosting services. So you can see here that we have the Contact V app that's in our Boston data center, and we can move that over to our Portland data center, or we could actually transport that out to a cloud provider. Now, if that is a very large vApp, and say it has a SQL database, a couple of web servers, and an app server, you know, the myth of being able to burst to the cloud is just a myth. If it is massive, it's going to take you a very long time to be able to move it. But with the VMware Cloud Hosting Services, they'll provide you with an encrypted NAS device that you can actually move the VMs onto, move that over to their VMware Cloud Hosting Services, seed the environment, and then you can have it up and running in their cloud hosting services. So a couple of important aspects and key success factors for business partners. vCloud Director can really provide transparency of infrastructure costs, create budget accountability for infrastructure-related costs to IT business projects, expand automation capabilities, and develop a strong resource capacity management modeling practice. So let's, again, jump back into vCloud Director really quick. So again, we've seen provider VDCs, we've seen our organizations, we've seen our organization VDCs, we've talked about the gateway infrastructure. Here are the vSphere resources. So here you can actually see the vCenter server that we're connected to. These are the different resource pools within vCenter server. So if I go to vCenter server right now, you're going to be able to see here's my bronze resource pool, here's my gold resource pool, and here's my silver resource pool. And we've done that all within one vCenter under a single cluster. Again, you could break out to multiple clusters depending on whether you had better servers that you might want to place the gold resource pool on. But for our lab environment, we've put bronze, gold, and silver all within the same cluster. You can see here in the delivery bronze organizational VDC that we do have the sales web application vApp, which includes the sales 2K8 VM-01. That's the different VMs. We also have gold, which delivery is a part of, and silver, which our sales organization is a part of. Neither of these organizations have VMs in them yet because they have not been deployed. So again, let's open up the delivery organization. So here's our sales 2008 server. We could add a VF from the catalog. So let's see if we can do that really quick. We're going to actually go to the public catalog. So these are the different objects I have available in the catalog. These are the gold master templates that are out there. So for this example, I'm going to actually select, a Windows 2008 server with SQL for my vApp deployment. So we're going to hit next, and it's going to ask me for the name of the system. And for consistency's sake, I'm going to go with the same naming standard we had out here, which was sales 2K8. I'm going to go sales 2K8 SQL 01. And next, configure resources. Since SQL is pretty important to me, I'm actually going to put it in my gold org VDC. And I want this to be on tier 1 storage, which is all that's really available with my gold organization because that's what I've set up in my organizational VDC. Configuring the network. We're just going to leave the default right now. This is all the information that we set. The VM name, hit finish, and it's going to spin up our sales 2K8 SQL 01 VM. So if I was part of the delivery organization and I was a developer, instead of actually have to submit a ticket into my server administration team or going through my service catalog to get a service resource, I can actually go out here and deploy my own servers. Now I had an error creating this. Let's take a quick look. Could not find data store to create the VM on. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to delete this VApp. I probably need to go take a look at that data store. But I'm going to go back in, and we're going to actually create another one. So again, I'm going to select from the public catalog. Let's do SQL one more time. And this time we're going to do sales W2K8 SQL -02. Next. This time let's take bronze. So I'm going to take bronze, pay as you go, storage profile, which is any. Keep the default networking, finish. Creating, lease expires in 30 days, which is the default lease value. And there we go. That one was actually created. So now I can start up the VM. And that will now show over here. Powering on the virtual machine. There we go. So that's actually creating the virtual machine. It's starting it up right now. And it's running. So now we can see that we have two virtual machines in our vApp. Sales Windows 2008 server. This one's Sales W2K8 SQL -02. Here they are, both powered on. So let's go look at our storage profiles really quick. These are the different storage profiles that were created. So they got a 3-par AO, a 3-par Tier 1, and a 3-par Tier 3 SATA. So let's take a quick look at the properties of the Tier 1, the one that failed on us. So this one's set to this particular LUN. Storage used. There is capacity available. So I'll have to see why this one actually failed. Because everything looks okay with it. These are the different data stores. Okay, so we do have some storage which is not available, which includes this one here. Okay. But you can actually, again, you know, the nice thing about this is from here you can actually see the different storage that is available, which one has system alerts, which one it has been shut off. So if I click here, you know, I can go and enable this storage now, and now I should be able to go and use my gold pool since I've enabled it and use that storage tier as well. So just for giggles, let's try to do that. I'm going to go back into delivery, and let's open it up. Add another vApp here. And we're going to go back to our public catalogs. This time I'm going to do an IAS server. And just so I can name correctly this time, I didn't do so well there. I'm going to name this one the Sales Windows 2008 IAS server. And it already has the description in there. I'm going to do next. And this is where I should actually do the VM name differently. So you'll see here that I've used the description. I should have used that here as well, and I can change that. The VM name is going for this is going to be the sales W2 8, and we're going to call this IIS-01. Storage profile is going to be any. Actually, we're going to change this. We're going to change this to gold, which is going to default it to that 3-par tier 1. Let's hit next. We're going to leave the default network, hit finish. It should spin up, pending, and hopefully, if everything works like planned, we should be able to get this on because now the storage is enabled. Right here, we're going to jump back to vCenter, clone a virtual machine. So it's actually copying the virtual machine file. So it is working now. And we'll be able to actually see that sales web application vApp. It should pop up down in here soon. While that's spinning up, let me show you catalogs really quick. So if we go into the catalogs, if I wanted to create a new catalog, I can click right here. And let's give our application catalog a new name. So let's call this delivery development catalog. You'll notice if I actually put a space here, once this is working, it actually reads it out. So it's not a valid name for the catalog. You actually have to space back. This is the development catalog for the delivery team. Let's hit next. We can add members to this. So we're going to put specific users in here. We're going to say that we're going to do user 2 is not a member, and that 1 and 3 are members of this group. And we're going to give them an access level of read and write. Okay, so here's our new catalog. Let's jump into that catalog. So within this catalog, we can now import different things. We can import media, and we can import vApp templates. So if I wanted to import a vApp template, I can do it directly from vSphere. So these are the different templates I have available to us. So let's take this template, for example. We're going to call this the delivery development Windows 2008. If this comes back to me. R2. Come on. server. Okay, we're not going to put a description in. My name is not correct. Let's see. VApp name must be non-empty and without a leading and trailing blanks. So do I have a leading blank? Nope. And I don't have a trailing blank. Yes, I did. Okay. So we got the name. We're going to select our virtual data center. I'm going to put this in bronze because it is just development. The storage profile is going to say stays empty. Now we can choose to either copy this VM or move this VM, and we're going to actually do a copy of this VM so it's there. And is this a gold master? No. This was what I showed you before, that little diagram of the gold disk. This can be no or yes. It doesn't really mean anything other than it shows a little picture there, just indicating that this is a gold master image. I'm going to hit OK, and this will actually create that delivery Windows 2008 server R2 template. It's importing it in, and that'll take a little bit. So let's go back to my cloud and look. Our server is there. It is not running. We are going to power it on like just suggested, and you'll see that it's starting up. So we now have 3 servers up and running. We have our IIS server, our regular app server, and our SQL server. If I open up the properties of this system, I'm actually going to rename this so it matches because I'm anal. So this one's going to be our sales Windows 2008 SQL server. Okay. That's going to update it with the new name. So there we go. We've got our delivery organization with 3 VMs in it. If we go to our catalog, we'll see that we're importing a VApp. You can also import media. So this is where we would do a specific ISO if we wanted to. And there's the VApp template is now ready to deploy. So we could actually deploy this out to one of our VApps. Going back here, our renames have taken place. These are started. This one's still starting up. If I go to vCenter, I should be able to see my different VMs. Here they are, all 3 of them. So let's jump out of delivery and get back to our system environment. So organizational VDCs. Let's take a closer look at one of these. So because we've been working with delivery, let's take a look at, say, the gold one. Let's open up the properties of one really quick. So within the organizational VDC, you can see this is our gold one. The resource pool is delivery gold org VDC, and it tells you the vCenter path, where it's located within vCenter. So that's the gold org VDC that I showed you in vCenter. And here's the allocations, the reserved amount that's allocated and the percentages. Again, the allocation amounts. And it actually gives you the amount of VMs that are expected to be able to run. So with this CPU allocation of 20 gigahertz and 20 gigabytes, you can have 20 small VMs, 10 medium VMs, or 5 large VMs. Here's the storage allocation. So again, we've got it set for the 3-part tier 1. We've enabled fast provisioning. Now, in most organizations, you're not going to do this. What fast provisioning does is it allows you to spin up VMs much quicker. It actually uses link clone technology, very similar to what you get within VMware View, to spin up those VMs. Unfortunately, it doesn't have anything like a recompose or anything like that. So it does have just very limited use cases. You could use it in a early pre-development space where the VMs aren't going to be available too long. But if the VMs are going to be available on a more permanent basis, you wouldn't want to use fast provisioning. Network pools and services. So here we got the gold VXLAN that things are going to be connected to. And why don't we create one out really quick? So let's create out the delivery silver org VDC. So again, we're going to select delivery, click next. We're going to do silver this time. Hit next, and you'll notice here that this is the actual external network. And for this, we're going to do, let's do a allocation model. And you can configure the amount of allocation that's available to the organization. So we're going to go with, just for fun, let's go with 10 gigahertz. And CPU resource guarantees, let's do 25% guarantee. Let's give this org 5 gigabytes, and we'll leave the memory at 50% reserved. Maximum number of VMs, let's put this at 10. So you'll be able to see here with the resources we've given what the actual types of VMs that we can have. So we can have 10 small VMs, 5 medium-sized VMs, and 2 large VMs. We'll hit next. For this, we're going to allow just the tier 3 storage. Now you could select multiple storages, which will provide a drop-down box and allow the user to actually select storage. Actually, let's do that. We'll select tier 1 as well. And let's give them 50 gig here and 50 gig here. And you'll be able to see the percentage of storage that would be used compared to what's there. And we're going to make the tier 3 the actual default storage. And we're going to use fast provisioning just because we're in the lab and we want to save space. Networking pool, we're going to select the silver VXLAN. Edge gateway, we are not going to create an edge gateway right now. Name of this organizational VDC is going to be delivery silver org VDC. Next, here's all the information. Finish. And now it's spinning up the delivery silver org VDC. So now the delivery organization has 3 different organizational pools that it can go to. It can go to the gold, bronze, or silver. Pre-sales just has bronze, and our sales team just has bronze and silver. And you'll notice here that the sales silver organization is not enabled. I can go in here and enable it, which would allow that pool to be available for the organization. That's pretty much it for vCloud Director. If you have any questions, again, this is Jason Gaudreau, Senior Technical Architect. I'd be more than willing to dive in to vCloud Director a little bit more and give you some hands-on experience. Thank you.